Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, today I rise in opposition to House Bill 2018. House Bill 2018 unnecessarily expands Georgia's concealed carry handgun reciprocity. This bill would allow people who have concealed gun permits from any other states to also carry their handguns here in Georgia. We do not need to expand concealed carry reciprocity in Georgia. Currently, our law allows those who are licensed to carry in other states to also carry in Georgia only if the Georgia handgun carry license is also recognized in their resident state. Chairman Ballinger told me that's called specific reciprocity. When we talked in committee about who we have specific reciprocity for, they were unsure, but I looked it up on the Attorney General website. We have concealed carry reciprocity with 32 states, and the 2 states that were mentioned in committee are already on our list. And for the record, these are the states: Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, New Hampshire, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. So we have that reciprocity there. So Chairman Ballinger also made a point that this bill does not automatically provide reciprocity. It facilitates the process. It allows the Attorney General to enter into an agreement. It allows permit holders in those states to carry there, allows our permit holders to carry there. However, the language of this bill does not require reciprocity, which the current law does. So I oppose this bill for several reasons. It's a dangerous threat to our law enforcement officers and our public safety. There's no assurance of discretionary provisions and no assurance of safety and no flexibility for judges during a state of emergency. This general expansion of carry reciprocity could force Georgia to recognize the concealed carry standards from the remaining 17 states where we don't have reciprocity, even the 5 that have dramatically weaker standards, and those that don't require any permit at all. Law enforcement overwhelmingly opposes concealed carry reciprocity, which would put police in danger for doing their jobs. On April 19, 2018, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, IACP, released a letter of opposition to the Federal Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. This letter was signed by 473 law enforcement agencies from 39 states who joined together to oppose concealed carry reciprocity. Our own LaGrange, Georgia Chief of Police, Louis M. Dekmar, was IACP president at that time, and this is what he said. While I support Second Amendment rights for all law-abiding citizens, I strongly oppose the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act because it endangers the public and law enforcement. This legislation would override state laws that determine who is qualified to carry a concealed firearm, laws that take into account the distinctive circumstances and needs in each state. No state should be forced to accept a person carrying a concealed that does not meet the standards the state has set for its own citizens. Concealed carry reciprocity severely interferes with local law enforcement's ability to prevent gun violence and safeguard the public. I reached out to my law enforcement officers late last night in researching this bill, and I heard back from our sheriff and DeKalb and from Michael O'Connor, the deputy chief of police. So this is not an official police position, but Michael O'Connor said, while I consider myself to be a supporter of Second Amendment rights in general, I am not a supporter of this bill as written. That is my personal opinion. My professional opinion is that this bill does nothing to increase the personal safety of Georgians. It might very well contribute to a spike in gun violence as seen throughout the state in 2020. I ask you, my esteemed colleagues, what does your law enforcement think about this bill? Do they support or do they oppose? It's hard to know if you wouldn't be able to have sent them the bill because it was changed twice, changed in committee with the sub, changed in rules with the sub. So you wouldn't have been able to send them the exact bill to ask them that. So I ask that you check in with your law enforcement officers before you vote yes on this bill. Now, we all know that police officers cannot stop and ask to see a permit for no reason. But if they have probable cause and that person has a weapon, Georgia police officers face an impossible task to verify if the out-of-state permit is valid, meaning that this job will make their job, making This bill will make their job more difficult as they are unable to confirm if that person showing a concealed carry permit is a law-abiding gun owner. As Boston Commissioner William Evans said in April 2018, during traffic stops and other interactions with the public, our officers would have to be familiar with 50 different state laws on concealed carry permitting. Given the split-second decisions our officers frequently need to make, this is nearly impossible and can foreseeably lead to violent confrontations. The strongest component of Georgia's carry license is its discretionary provision, which allows a judge to deny a license to someone who is deemed not to be of good moral character. A handful of those states that do not have a discretionary provision in their handgun carry license, these states are Minnesota, New Mexico, Nebraska, Nevada, Arizona, and Washington State. So this means that people who would not be given a concealed carry handgun license if they lived in Georgia, they will be free to carry their handguns on Georgia streets, which will create a significant public safety threat to all Georgia residents. I asked Chairman Ballinger about this, and she said she doesn't see this as a problem. She thinks this is a states' rights issue. But I ask, what about Georgians' rights? Our responsible gun owners have met standards, and they should rest assured that other gun owners have as well. And let's talk about safety. In a time where gun sales and gun violence have risen dramatically across the country, this bill would allow 17 additional states to have handgun carrying privileges in Georgia without any consideration of how strong or well-run their permitting systems are. Some of these additional states do not require safety training, meaning more untrained people in Georgia will be carrying loaded handguns in public and may not know how to properly and safely handle a handgun. The amendment to 218, expanding emergency powers related to guns, unnecessarily ties the hands of judges and public health officials during the state of emergency. The Chief Judge of the Georgia Supreme Court declared a judicial emergency last spring and instructed courts to suspend all but essential functions in an effort to stem the spread of COVID-19 virus. The Council of Probate Court Judges of Georgia issued a memo temporarily suspending license carry renewals and permit applications as a response to local law enforcement limiting fingerprinting. And fingerprinting, which is a requirement to obtain a carry handgun license and which helps ensure people with dangerous histories don't carry guns in public. This dangerous amendment would not allow judges the flexibility to take a pause. This amendment would curtail judicial discretion and hamstring local law enforcement during a time when the focus should be on public safety, not the ability to carry loaded handguns in public. Increasingly, the amount of people walking around on Georgia streets with loaded handguns from other states, in addition to unnecessarily restricting the authority of judges and public health officials during a public health emergency, is irresponsible and unsafe. And let's talk about the impact. The expansion of concealed carry reciprocity and emergency powers related to gun victims of domestic abuse. As we've said, the strongest component of Georgia's carry license is its discretionary provision, which allows a judge to deny a license to someone who is not of good moral character, someone such as a domestic abuser. Because a handful of states will now be allowed to carry in Georgia that do not have a discretionary provision in their handgun carry license, and Georgia officers have no way to verify if an out-of-state permit is valid, it is possible that those with dangerous histories will be allowed to cross state lines to carry in Georgia, including domestic violence offenders. Back in 2019, during a morning order, I shared with you that at my church, the third Sunday of every month during our confession, we pray by reading aloud the names of the victims of gun violence for the previous month. The murders, the suicides, the accidents. About 50 a month, 600 a year. We view this as a confession because these are preventable deaths, and gun violence is a sickness in our society. It was during one of these readings that I felt called to run to work on issues and policies that can change these statistics, ending social isolation, increasing access to mental health care, moving towards a restorative model of criminal justice, and ending systemic racial equality, and also reducing easy access to guns. For years, we tied a ribbon for each victim, green for adults, blue for children, out on a string on our church lawn, bearing witness to their lives. We brought that to an end, and we sent all of you a letter and a ribbon asking you to work on policies that would honor the lives of these victims. This past year, we worked on soul boxes, 3-inch paper boxes that show the photo and name and keywords about the life of Georgians, and assembled these into large panels. And I regret to inform you that we had 1,200 victims of gun violence in Georgia in 2020. In December, we went from 50 up to, we'd been having 50 in 2019. We had 98 gun violence deaths in Georgia in December. Each one of these was killed by a bullet shot from the barrel of a gun. Colleagues, House Bill 218 does nothing to protect Georgians. Let's work together to pass safe gun ownership laws. We don't need laws that weaken our public safety. I ask that you join me in voting no for House Bill 218. Speaker, I yield the well.
Lady is yielded the well.